Hey, welcome back. Today we are looking at adding and subtracting fractions. We're starting our new unit over fraction operations. Today our focus is learning to add and subtract fractions. Our success criteria is I can find common denominators to fractions, I can add and subtract fractions with like denominators, and I can simplify fractions. So fractions aren't new. We worked on fractions last year as well. So we need to determine the least common denominator for each set of fractions. So we're looking at 2/3 and 3/4. So what are we looking at? Well, first we're going to set up. What do we have? I have 2/3 and 3/4. The fractions we have to, when we're adding or subtracting, they have to be the same size. They have the same denominators. So we can tell easily that these are not the same size. Because I have fourths and thirds. They're not the same size, so I can't just add them. So to find the common denominator, we're looking at what takes up the same amount of space, or equivalent fractions. So 1/5 doesn't work because it's too big. Gotta work for both. So if I'm looking at 1/6, we're like, well, 2/6 is equivalent to 1/3, but that doesn't work for 1/4. So it's got to be the same to work for both. All right, so let's try the eighths. Well, the eighths work for 1/4. They don't work for 1/3. So let's look at 12ths. Look there, we have the 12ths, and the 12ths work for the third. Right? And then the 12ths work for the fourth. So 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. 1/4 is equivalent to 3/12 because they take up the same amount of space. And that's what we're looking at when we're looking for common denominators. We find at least common multiples so we can find our least common denominator. Right, so for 2/3 and 3/4, our least common denominator is 12. So when we're adding and subtracting fractions, remember our denominator must be the same. Right? So fractions and mixed numbers can be added and subtracted by following our steps. So first we have to find the least common denominator. If the fraction denominators don't match, they match, we don't have to. And then we're going to find those where it says we're going to rename each fraction, but really we're finding those equivalent fractions. Then we add, subtract the numerator. And we leave the denominator same. We regroup and simplify as needed. Right, so look at number 4. We have 3/5 and 1/3. Well, 5 and 3 aren't the same, so we need to figure out our common multiple. So 3 and 5, so 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, oh, 15. Right, so I know that my new denominator is going to be 15. So 5 times what is 15? Well, 5 times 3. So I do the bottom, I have to do the top. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times what is 15? 3 times 5. So I do the bottom, I have to do the top. So 1 times 5 is 5. So I have 9/15 plus 5/15. Well, 9 plus 5 is 14. And our denominator stays the same. So I have 14/15. And it's in simplest form. Because we 14 and 15, there's no common factors. Great. So we did this one, and now you can do 6. So we can practice with 7, 8. It gives us our list of find least common denominator. We name those fractions, which are finding those equivalent fractions, and we add, subtract the fractions and the whole numbers, and then we regroup and simplify. So I have 2 and 2/5 minus 1 and 1/3. Well, we have that 5 and 3. So we know our common denominator is going to be 15. If we're not sure, we just count it out. With 15 means we have 2/5 and 1/3, and we know that 15 is my common denominator. So 5 times 3 was 15, and so I do the bottom and the top. 2 times 3 is 6. So 2/5 is equivalent to 6/15. So we have 2 and 6/15. We have 3 times 5 gave us 15. 1 times 5 is 5. So 5/15 is equivalent to 1/3. So starting with our fractions, 6 minus 5 is 1. Our denominator doesn't change. 2 minus 1 is 1. So 1 and 1/15 is our answer. You can work on number 8. So flipping to the back, we're talking about regrouping mixed numbers. So when I'm subtracting mixed numbers, I might have to regroup a whole number into its fractional parts. So really what that means that I have one whole set, and sometimes I have to break it down. So if I have one whole and I'm dealing with eighths, how many would we have? Well, I'd have 8/8. I have one whole and we're dealing with fifths and I need to regroup. I would have 5/5. If I have two wholes and I'm dealing with thirds, I would have one whole and 3/3. What does that really look like? Well, here we have two whole sets and we're subtracting 3/10. Well, there's no fraction. I have to break this down. So I have one whole set and then 10/10. Well, 1 and 10/10 still equals 2. But now I could subtract it from 3/10 because my denominators are the same. So 10 minus 3 is 7. My denominator stays the same. So 2 minus 3/10 equals 1 and 7/10. So we'll notice here 9 through 11 are easy because we can manipulate to make the denominators the same. But down here on 13 and 14, our denominators are not the same. So I have 8 and I have 4. Well, find that least common multiple. Oh, well, it's 8. So I have 3/4, and my denominator is gonna be 8. What's the 4 times 2? Then when I do the bottom, I do the top. So 3 times 2 is 6. So 3/4 equivalent to 6/8. So I have 7 and 1/8 minus 2 and 6/8. So my denominator is the same. Well, I have 1. Can I take 6 away from 1? Can't. So I'm gonna take my 7 and regroup. So now I have 6. We have 8s. So I took that one whole set and I made 8 parts. But we already had one part, so now that's 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. My 8 doesn't change. 6 minus 2 is 4. So answer is 4 and 3/8. Now it's your turn to practice. I sent you home with some practice assessment assignment. It had 6 questions. Sorry, go ahead and work on that. Bring it back tomorrow. If you have any questions, feel free to come in.